Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this June 4th, 2025 meeting of WMATA's Riders Advisory Council. I am Chair Cole Stout and calling this meeting to order, and will ask John to call roll.
Great. Chair Stout.
Here.
Vice Chair Siddiqui.
Here.
Vice Chair Wei.
Yes, I'm here.
Solomon Chen said he couldn't make it. Matthew Clark.
I'm here.
Eli Crivero Franco.
Present.
Lucas Sabaski.
Here.
Alex Mendelson.
Here.
Brian Meyer.
Here.
Joseph Pope. Not yet. Pat Sheehan.
Here.
Thomas Shepard.
Here.
Irene Stevens.
Here.
All right. Hendi Tefesi.
Here.
Brandon Wu. All right. You have a quorum.
Awesome. Thank you, John. And thank you all for being here. I think the next item we will go to is the approval of the agenda. And I think we have one edit to strike item 3, approval of the minutes. Is that right, John? Both sets?
Yes, sorry. I will be a little better next meeting to get those to you guys.
That's fine. So unless there are any objections, we will consider the agenda approved as amended by striking item 3. Wonderful. Next item on our agenda is public comment. Are there any members of the public here who would like to share any thoughts with the RAC at the beginning of our meeting?
Well, as usual, I'll save mine for the individual items when staff is on.
That's fine. Unless you have something that's not on the agenda, Cal, we will come back to you here in a little bit. Next up is Better Bus Outreach. I know as we are now a month of the Better Bus plan launch, I think we've been seeing a lot, and I think what we want to focus on here is to give you all as RAC members a few more tools to go out and be active in your networks. So this will be a little bit different than what we've covered so far. I know we've been doing Better Bus a lot, but obviously changing up a entire bus network. I think they've been saying this is the first time a transit agency of this size has done that in the United States. So all at once. So we want you to be equipped with the tools and knowledge to be able to go out and talk to your networks about how to engage riders about changes happening in the routes that are important to them. So I believe, Jerry, are you presenting on this one?
Yep. My name is Jerry Elar. I'm on the Community Relations and Outreach team. And so you may have seen Renee or Erica, a couple of the bus planning members who presented in the past, or if you've attended a Metro Message, I'm on the same team as our Community Relations and Outreach. So I want to share a couple of updates and highlights for the of what's going on with our Better Bus partners, as well as community events. We have a ton of events that are going on, but June 9th, so next week, Monday, that's when our in-person ride-alongs and bus stop chats will happen. And so if you go to wmata.com/betterbus, at the very bottom of the page is our calendar event. And so you'll start seeing all of our ride-alongs and bus stop chats. And then highlights for our Better Bus partners, we have 82 organizations registered across the DMV. And so we're still collecting or having people sign up because we want to get as many people in the know of what's going on across the system before June 29. And so within those 82 organizations, there are 398 locations. And so some of our heavy hitters, 7 locations are with the DC Department of Aging and Community Living. And so we've added a ton of senior outreach events, even this week and in the next coming weeks, to really share the information with our senior friends and making sure that they know how to navigate the system as well. We've also worked a partnership with Prince George's County Department of Parks and Rec. There's 110 locations that are sharing information about Better Bus routes. We're getting information to them as well. And then also with Montgomery County Department of Parks and Rec, we have 199 locations. And so we're working throughout this month to make sure that we can give them as much information, as much resources, opportunities to connect with riders, community members, anyone that's impacted. And then hoping to finalize our launch day events that are happening on Sunday, September 29, as well as September 30th. And so we would need your help as well to get people into some of our stations or bus stops, as well as some of our key areas. And so hopefully by next week, we'll have that formalized plan of how you can get involved as well on that big day, Sunday, as well as preparing everyone that Monday for their first week back into the office on a new bus route system. Wanted to cover a couple of community events, some highlights. So we've had since April 19 pop-ups with over 12,209 interactions. And so this has been, I've been at some of these events with Howard University. I've been at Bike to Work Day, ton of people giving their feedback. Grateful that we're doing in-person outreach. And so it's really helping that people are going and chatting with our customers or our riders and letting them know what's going on with the new system. So as we try to get more people, hopefully they can share with their friends and with their networks as well. And so 2 key highlights in terms of big events that our team and also our outreach staff has been doing. The Adelphi pop-up, there was 673, and I think something to note is that there were 614 Spanish interactions, and so our outreach team has been poised to really communicate with our language or our limited English proficient populations and making sure that they have all the information as well. We had our Senior Fest 2025 block party pop-up. We had 759 interactions there. And so really trying to cover some of our vulnerable populations as well through our outreach. So we're trying to add as much as we can throughout this time, but we'll need some more assistance from our Better Bus partners, from you all, making sure that we can share the information out. And then just want to reiterate how you can share the information. So Trip Planner is live. You can use that starting to plan your trips. We encourage people to just do day by day, but if they know that they're traveling on July 4th, they can use the Trip Planner, and then that will tell them which bus routes to take as well during that time. Become a Better Bus partner. We're always trying to enlist more people to spread the word of the new route system and making sure people have the resources and tools to navigate across the DMV. And we have a wealth of information in terms of a toolkit. And so having already templated information, with OSSI, I saw that they sent out a newsletter this morning. And so we're steadily getting more newsletters and more people sending stuff out through as the school year is ending and summer school is also starting. Also thinking about school engagement, we are planning, we've partnered with DCPS and going to be presenting in their Operations Institute in the summer in July, and then hopefully getting onto their town hall to get students and families prepared, and also their staff when they return to school in August. And so that's going to be a running list of engagements and trying to work with DPR. In the past, there used to be Beat the Streets and a ton of summer events that are happening throughout the district, and for us to get in front of students. I'm going to pause there. I kind of went under the assumption that some of you have attended a Better Bus info session or attended a Metro message, but wanted to take any questions or thoughts, suggestions that you may have, and that I can take back to our team as well. Yeah, William.
Hey,
Hi, Jerry. Yes, I was wondering if there's anyway, I did a quick Google search just for that older adult engagement that you mentioned, but there's so much information that I wasn't sure if there's a specific link. And also, I'm in Arlington. Wanted to see if there were any specific community engagements in Arlington. Is there a good way to get that information?
Yeah, I might have to get back to you.
Okay, great.
Thank you. and then chat with a couple of people on our outreach team who have been more involved in terms of our specific outreach to our senior team and also our senior citizens, and then also what our outreach is looking like in Arlington.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. I think Cole, you're next. Is that right?
Not sure.
Yes, sir.
Could you really just quickly talk to the group about what a Better Bus partner is? I was able to jump on to, well, I think it was on Friday, the call y'all had. And I know we sent that link around to the RAC, but just so people know what a actual partner is and what resources they get access to and how you're interacting with those community partners, I think would be helpful.
Yeah. So once you become a Better Bus partner, this could be a business, this could be an organization. We're really looking for entities, not individual one-off people. So like me, myself, I wouldn't be a Better Bus partner, but if I was part of the Boys and Girls Club on 14th Street, I would sign up for that as a Better Bus partner. So once I sign up, someone from our team will reach out, whether it's our outreach staff or someone from WMATA, and they will get you an info session. Because we had our 3 info sessions already in May, we'll share the recording to the Better Bus partners, and then that will give you all the information of why are we doing, or how did the Better Bus network engagement, how did that start? What is happening now? What are some tips and tricks? And then also, once you have that session, that recording, we will work with your organization to get you promotional items, all the toolkits, the take ones for your organization, so that way you can hand it out. And then there will be additional toolkits of like, these are the events that you can do, or this is how you can interact with customers, or if customers have a certain question about their routes changing, how do you answer that, or who do you contact at WMATA to better answer their needs? Did that answer your question, Cole?
Yep, thank you.
Yeah. I think, is it Eli? Are you next? I don't have the.
Sure. So
Sorry, Irene, I think I skipped you, but yeah, Eli and then Irene.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so I wanted to say thank you so much for this information. I was really surprised and great to see the Spanish level interaction for one of those pop-ups you did. So I just wanted to know if you have you been seeing some Better Bus partners that are work with the Latino community or Spanish-speaking populations specifically, since I know that is a group that tends to, use the bus more than other groups as well. So, and if not, is there ways that we can help specifically push to those groups or organization types that you are lacking in?
Yeah, I haven't had the numbers in terms of which Spanish groups we've worked with, and so I would have to chat with Renee and a couple of our outreach staff. But I think if you have people in your network that speak Spanish, that's always helpful. I don't speak Spanish personally, and so we're always struggling to figure out like how can we share the information out. And so that's one step, if within your own internal networks, if you have Spanish speaking friends, colleagues that can help push some of this information out. And we have Spanish speaking toolkits as well that we can share out. But I can also work on making sure which organizations that are limited English proficiency, not just Spanish, of what other networks or where are some of the gaps, because Spanish speaking could be very targeted in terms of certain areas, but like if we go into Northern Virginia, there might be other languages that we're missing out as well.
Thank you.
Yep. Irene?
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you for the presentation. And this is more to piggyback of previous comments on DC or other regional events, just so we have some coverage, or if not, because I'm considering where to go personally. Last night, I attended a Transit Enthusiast of DC event, and I will get into that more later. It was awesome, but I want to be sure that there's coverage, especially since we have a lot of representation on the console and that there's not duplication.
Yeah, I think we can do some follow-up in terms of, we sent out a sign up genius for even our internal staff, and people have been signing up, but I think we can work with John and Jose to say like, okay, we have a ton of outreach that's happening in DuPont in our Sign Up Genius, but we don't have enough representation at a certain location across the DMV, we can do we can follow up with John and Jose of like, okay, these are the targeted areas that we're really lacking in terms of support, and so we can follow up with where we need additional support.
Thank you.
Jose?
Jose and then Cal.
Yeah, I just want to follow up with Eli's request about where there's going to be outreach for the Latino community. I know that they're planning to do outreach through news media. So there will be, I know Randy did some earlier this week, so studying those. So they're looking to do something very soon at the news networks. I know they did some outreach to them to see if they were interested. So stay tuned to that. So it should be happening sooner than later.
Thank you, Jose. Cal?
Actually, I think Alex goes first. He's a RAC member.
All right, Alex, and then Cal.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I wanted to ask what kind of outreach you're looking to do specifically for high schools in the DMV in terms of like, are you guys just looking at like getting on like mailing lists? Are you looking to physically go in the high schools and talk to students?
Yeah, we're definitely looking into how can we connect with students, especially school or the summer learning or summer school is happening as well. And so we want to make sure that transition when summer school starts in end of June, they're going to have a very different bus system versus when they start in August, or sorry, after the implementation of the bus network. And so we know that for DC. And so I know there's 3 high schools that we need to get in contact with to make sure that they have their information. And so right now, what we've done is just making sure that we can close out the school year and then get in front of any orientations that are happening for later on or orientations for the summer school program. But if you have additional points and contacts that you can share with us that we can connect with different schools across the DMV, that would be helpful as well.
Yeah, so one, that's good to hear. I'm glad you guys are getting in front of, especially for summer school. But I myself am a high school student in Arlington County, specifically at Washington Liberty in the Ballston area. So we got a lot of bus service. I don't know exactly what our summer school situation is, but if you guys wanted to come in person, like in the fall when back to school is happening, like I could 100% set that up for you guys.
Yeah, that'd be
So
great.
you just have to let me know. I can drop my email in the chat if you want to reach out.
Yeah, we've been doing outreach to all the family and community engagement partners or offices within Arlington, Fairfax, Alexandria, Montgomery, and Prince George's. I originally came from DC Public Schools and their community engagement sector, and so I have a pretty tight network there. And so what will be really helpful is thinking about the surrounding areas in Maryland, Virginia, and other insertion points that we can get to get ahead of summer school and as well as back to school in August, because there's a ton of staff that are coming back in August, and then also making sure that we can get in some of these areas where there's orientations, bridge programs for students and open to elementary families, and then also up to high school students who take transit.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. I'm gonna drop my email in the chat if you want to reach out sometime as we're getting towards the fall. But that all sounds really good, and hopefully it is successful.
Thanks, Alex. And Alex is our high school rep on the RAC, so really well plugged in there. I think I see Thomas's hand has also popped up. We'll get you, Cal, I promise.
Oh yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for the presentation. It was very informative. I'm glad to hear about all the outreach efforts that Metro is undertaking to get the word out about Better Bus. And in a similar vein, I wanted to ask, what is like, how are you guys reaching out to college students? I'm a college student myself. I go to Georgetown. I'm from the area, but I think a lot of, I could imagine there would be a lot of confusion for students who don't live in the DC area. I think the bus system and DC Transit can already be a little confusing as it is if you're not from around here. And so I was curious if the outreach efforts would continue up into the fall, and like what would it look like even during the summer? Because I know lots of students will be here over the summer as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So we recently did, well, not recently, back in April, that was like our first college activation. And so we talked to Howard students on their Spring Fest event, and they were like, oh, we didn't know the 70 bus is changing. And like, oh, I'm so glad you're out here. And so we're planning on doing more in August, especially when it's back to school, welcome weeks. And so do the same type of engagement that we're trying to do with high school and elementary or primary across the district. We're outlining how can we interact with college students, because we're trying to make the Better Bus is supposed to be easier for all people to use. And so now that we're changing the names, hopefully more college students will feel more comfortable taking the bus system. And so I think there are a couple of cool activations that we can do with college students, whether it's new students who are going to be here for the summer and just coming in I think probably at the end of June and doing a bridge program, being new to the city. How can we get them acclimated of traversing across the DMV? What does that look like? And then also other activations. So if you have additional friends at different colleges, if they can somehow share their information with us or have the school become a Better Bus partner, that's the information that we need. So that way we can get in front of and do some planning in terms of welcome week events that are coming up in August.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Should we go to Matthew Clark, then Cal, or Cal, then Matthew Clark?
Matthew first.
Okay.
Hey, Jerry, thanks for taking the time this evening. My question was in regards to the comms toolkit.
Yeah.
In your opinion, would you say that's appropriate for whatever the contents are in there? We can just use that as a shared method. So if someone has questions, say, hey, you can go to this link. And is that designed to spread this information on an organizational level or on an individual level? Or how would you say that? Is that just a general broad access point for information about the Better Bus network?
Yeah, it's definitely a broad access point. And so usually like adding it to a newsletter, to social media, you can use that as individual touch points. But if you're trying to send out newsletters to your ANC, to a larger group of people, that will definitely help, because we're trying to push this information large and wide. And then if there are individual touch points that they have very specific questions, they can still use the email address or the 202 Go Metro and share like any concerns through that, or at any of our activation points. There should be a Metro staff there to answer specific questions, especially in the month of June. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I would say so. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Cal.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Good. Okay. So I have a little barrage of stuff. First of all, which of the 3 high schools you mentioned that are going to get their schedules done for the fall?
So there are 3 schools that they typically do for summer school, and so that's what I was referencing. I believe it's Coolidge, Blue, maybe Banneker. I need to look at the list again, but those are the 3 schools in terms of DC that I know have summer schools that will start on June 24th, which would be right before the implementation of Better Bus, and then moving into, but that's just high schools. And so I don't have the list of the 10 or 12 schools that are elementary and middle school. And so
Well,
we still
I'm
need to do some
actually,
outreach.
yeah, I'm actually more interested in the fall
Got it.
because we have formerly Wilson and Deal that had the
Mhm.
special routes, and
Yep.
we haven't heard much about what's happening with those, other than it looks like they have to take regular routes and transfers, and they don't get dedicated buses for the schools, it looks like. So I'm not sure who handles that. It's probably not your department.
Yeah,
But,
I can work with the bus planning team in terms of like specific questions, but I agree.
Yeah.
Like, it is a very large school of like what, close to 2,000 students that attend Jackson Reed, another like 1,000 or so that attend Deal. And so
Yep.
we'll definitely need to do some outreach beginning in August so that your constituents, your community feel prepared going into the first day of school. I think it's on August 28th or so.
Yeah, so that's that. I went to both those schools. So the second thing is, and I guess I could have done this in the opening public comment, we have an announcement, which is that the formerly Bus Transit Working Group is now called the Friends of Bus Transit. We're starting out in Chevy Chase and working our way down through Ward 3 and part of Ward 4. We have a big event coming up on June 24th in person. What I wanted to find out, and Irene, I know you were talking about this other advocacy group. I can't talk today. That has, and maybe we should talk about partnering them. I don't know if you can maybe put your email in the chat or something. I could write you and you can tell me about them. But for you, Jerry, the last item is we need maps of our metro stations, particularly Tenley and Friendship, because I discovered yesterday that the locations of bus stops are actually shifting around, say around the Friendship Heights Transit station or whatever you call it. It's not so it's not just they're changing the numbers, they're actually changing the locations of which buses go to which stops around that hub. So I need more information about that, and probably the easiest thing would be to get a copy of those maps that you guys probably will have at the stations. I don't know how to get that. The other thing is we'll need a bit of artwork. Like I need an artwork of a route sign that has one route on it, and a route sign that has two routes on it, a route sign that has two routes plus a route from another system like Ride On. So I don't know how to get all that information because that's not normally what's being distributed by the partner program.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you need bus maps for that area, right? I believe they're working on neighborhood profiles, and so that should be on the website. I think they're doing it in stages because they're steadily working through all the different profiles across the DMV. And then additional route signage you'll need as well.
Well, and for the first one, it's not so much the maps. I mean, I have access to the profiles but which everybody does, but it's more like at a metro station, you'll have a sign that shows like for example in Silver Spring, that shows the locations of which bus bay you go to catch which bus. So in Friendship Heights, I discovered yesterday those things are actually changing. The same bus line with a different number is going to go to a different bus stop, a different bus bay.
Got it. Yeah.
And I need to be able to talk about that on June 24th when we have our big event. So
yeah, let me look into what the timing is for this, for that part. I'm not as familiar with that process, and so I'll get back to you in terms of.
I mean, I can also write to Renee and ask her, but I have a feeling she's swamped.
If you do, she can forward it over to me. So
okay.
Well, yeah, we'll hunt.
Yeah.
We can hunt down a bus bay map, assuming the files are out there. They're gonna need to get up on the website at some point.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Thanks, Cal. I think, Matthew, your hand might still be up from earlier, so I'm going to go to Alex.
Sorry, I just wanted to quickly add on to what I said earlier. I looked up our Arlington Public Schools summer school situation for high school students, which starts, let me double check, it's July 7th to August
July
1.
7th. Okay.
Yeah. And it is actually at Washington Liberty. So if you guys wanted to even reach out to me sooner than that, like I could just probably get maps up for somewhere you guys like on the walls on the first floor or something like that. I have other contacts at the school system, so please just do not be shy. I'm happy to get the word out.
We would take any additional assistance, especially connecting with youth and high school students, making sure that they know where to go for their first day of school, because we do not want to be a barrier for them to be successful in their attendance.
Yeah. No, that'd be great. And I know sometimes people come in over the summer, so like we could just get like a map up on the wall maybe before summer school or something like that. Like that could help out potentially. So just yeah, please let me know what you guys are interested in.
Perfect. I can reach out to you. So
Awesome. Well, I don't see any more hands up. And so in the interest of time, I think we'll move on to the next item, but really want to thank you, Jerry, for coming in. Appreciate it. I think, are you also doing our rail service
it's
changes?
all me.
Oh,
I
let's
have
go.
a couple of
All
things.
right. The next one.
So rail service changes effective June 22nd. So I think I've seen a couple of you at our budget engagement back in, what was that, early February, end of January, early February. And so this is an adoption of all the implementations and optimizations for rail service outside of Better Bus Network. And so wanted to chat through our engagement and also just reiterate what some of the changes are. So just quickly, split line, silver line. So the silver line will, heading eastbound, will now go to New Carrollton as well as downtown Largo. And so it will split at Stadium Armory. And so I'll talk through a couple of our implementations and outreach strategies to making sure that people know that they're getting on the right train heading to New Carrollton or downtown Largo, making sure they're on the right train. This will be exciting for our expanded weekend hours. So Friday, we are now closing an hour later at 2 a.m. And you'll actually get a sneak preview of that this weekend for Pride weekend. Saturday will open an hour earlier at 6 a.m. Saturday will close an hour later at 2 a.m. And then Sunday will open an hour earlier at 6 a.m. There are other optimizations that are happening as well that I'll talk through. But those are the big key things that are impacting riders across the system. And so here is just a sneak preview of the map. And so if you remember when we were releasing the budget proposals, there was talks about having the yellow line extend up to Greenbelt. And so we are actually deferring that until December 2025. And so we are working on finalizing the maps. We're hoping to make them public soon. We do have our website up and running. So wamata.com/changes will outline all of the changes that are happening for the rail service that's happening on June 22nd. So that's a Sunday. Reiterating the Silver Line split at Stadium Armory to New Carrollton, and then the weekend hours, but additional things that are happening. We are doing additional Silver Line trains during super peak capacity in the morning and then in the evening. And then on the Red Line, there will be super peak capacity during morning and evening rush hours. And so if you're around the red or taking the Silver Line trains or on the orange and blue, you'll see more service as a response to the increased ridership. Additionally, with ATO or automated train operations, there should be some efficiencies, and hopefully we can. A lot of the budget savings are from ATO being enacted, and so right now, red line is ATO, and then green line is going through the next phase, and so after that, we're hoping to have the entire system under ATO. This is like another slide in terms of outlining some of the service and what the service is addressing in terms of the issues. And then in terms of station supports, so station customer wayfinding, the big thing that we're struggling with Better Bus and all these huge projects and initiatives that are happening is that we're having a hard time replacing all of the maps in the trains. So we're really encouraging customers to pay attention to digital maps, whether it's on the website or digital platforms or the mezzanine platforms. And so we are doing a priority of 6 stations for physical maps. And then throughout the summer, hopefully we can get that done earlier, replacing all the maps on all the trains, all the printed maps that are posted in the stations. So there will be a stage replacement for these maps. And then the other piece, because the yellow line will be expanding later on this year, we did not want to do double the work and waste time and energy. And so there will be on some of the printed maps, a decal that's covering the yellow line. And once December comes along, that decal will be pulled down. And so that's a little snippet of what we're planning on doing in terms of trying to save time and energy of not having to print 2 maps and just really printing 1 map and making sure that people know that the yellow line extension is coming, but it's not here yet until December. Station messages, so our passenger information display screen. So you can see on the right, that's a sample of our newer PIDs. And so we'll have advisories up between June 15th and 27 for any of our customers who are hard of hearing, that they can pay attention to these advisories, and if they miss the digital screen or if there isn't a printed notification. And so we're really highlighting the Silverline split in all of these station supports, because we want to make sure that people know that the Silverline is expanding out to New Carrollton. Digital platform and mezzanine screens will have updated, and then train operator announcements heading eastbound on the Silver Line between June 22nd and 27. We'll have reminders by the station and also the train operator announcements to make sure that customers are on the right train heading east. And so this is a sample of what the digital signage will look like going up in all the system, or the entire system. Things that we are tracking towards in terms of tactics, wamada.com/changes. So that outlines all the rail service changes. It also talks about Better Bus implementation happening on June 29. And then if you haven't heard, Tap Ride Go is now happening at all of our stations, not our buses or parking lots. So in our stations, you can use your credit or debit card. A brochure will be handed out starting when our in-station outreach will happen on June 18th through the 25th. So I jumped ahead a little bit. Digital signage will be up by next week, June 9th through the 27th. Communications toolkit will be up on June 9th. Social media graphics will start happening after starting June 9th through the 27th. And we will have in-station outreach happening at L'Enfant, Metro Center, Farragut West, Foggy Bottom, Stadium Army, and Smithsonian. These are our 6 key stations, transfer points where we get a lot of our high traffic areas heading east, whether it's downtown Largo or New Carrollton. So we'll have our rail ambassadors on June 18, 19th, and 20th. And then we'll have our WMATA staff, or our MIPS, as we call them, on that June 22nd to make sure people know that weekend hours are expanding, as well as the Silverline split. And then June 23rd, 24th, and 25th, we'll have our MTPD staff as well as our rail ambassadors out in the system as well, addressing customers. A couple of quick things. Increased rail services happening on June 6th and 8th, so it's this weekend. So you'll have a quick preview of Friday late night hours and Saturday or weekend early hours on Saturday and Sunday. And then this weekend we'll also have the yellow line extend up to Greenbelt. I have 3 more slides, but for Metro, the Metro's new mobile app is also up and running. So Metro Pulse. The one thing to note is that the bus network isn't on here yet, and so you'll still need to use the wamada.com/trip planner to go to that. But if you haven't used it yet, download it on your phone if you have a smartphone, whether it's on Google or Android or your Apple phone. It is an iterative process, and so hopefully everything is working, but we're trying to make this the app for you, the Metro Premier app. And so hopefully this will be better than the Transit app, the Google Maps, Apple Maps, traversing across our system. And so use this, download it, let us know how it's going, connect with our customer service so we can improve the app for you all. I'm not sure if we have time for this, or John or Jose, if you want me to go through these 2 quick slides, or if you want me to answer questions.
I think we have time. If you
Okay.
want to pop through these. Quick.
Perfect. I'm also on our summer 2025 major construction. And so if you're living in Virginia, specifically around the blue and yellow lines, we are doing 2 major construction projects. Our phase 1 is on the blue line at Franconia Springfield and Van Dorn Street. And so between July 5th through July 22nd or 26th, Franconia Springfield and Van Dorn Street will be impacted. And so this is a list of all the planned work that will be happening. There will be a free bus shuttle system that will be going locally to Franconia, Van Dorn, and Eisenhower and King Street. So we did add Eisenhower to that mix. And so customers will have the option to either onboard or offboard at Eisenhower or King Street. So it's really up to them on if they prefer to take the train down to Eisenhower or take the local shuttle between Eisenhower and King Street. It may depend on traffic, so it might just be a personal preference during the time and day. And then there will be one express shuttle going to Pentagon to and from. And so that will be throughout the entire weekday and weekend. And then on July 12th through the 13th and July 19th through 20th, Braddock Road to Huntington will have single tracking on the yellow line. So just plan for more time when traveling south of Ronald Reagan if you're heading towards Huntington or Franconia Springfield. And as you can see, or maybe there is the blue line will terminate at Ronald Reagan, and so it will not go down to King Street. And so that is to answer headway times. And so making sure if it went down to Huntington, it would have, I think, extended the headway times by a couple more minutes. And so the idea is to end it at Ronald Reagan, and then people can transfer over to the yellow line if they're trying to get to Huntington, or get down to Eisenhower or King Street and then transfer over to the local shuttle to Franconia Springfield. And one key thing to note, free parking will be at all the impacted stations. So Franconia Springfield and Van Dorn Street will have free parking for anyone. And then one more slide. Specifically, if you want to go to this phase 1, you can go to wimata.com/phase1, and that will have all the information for the blue line, major construction. And then for phase 2, impacted stations will be Branch Avenue, Suitland, Naylor Road. They will be closed from August 2nd through the 31st. And then we will have a free shuttle bus service that will run from Branch Avenue to Southern Avenue as well, local and express. The weekend shutdown extension will happen on August 9th through the 10th and the 16th and 17th. And so that will extend, and it will close Southern Ave and Congress Heights during those weekends. And so at the Green Line will terminate and start at Anacostia. Free parking will be available at Branch Avenue, Suitland, and Naylor Road. And then if you want to check out for more information on this project, you can check out wimata.com/phase2. And the bullet points are all the work that we're doing at on the Green Line. So shared a lot of information. I think we have time for questions, correct?
Yeah, we do. I want to go back quick to the Silver Line split.
Yep.
I know, especially on trains that are not 7,000 series trains, the availability of a working speaker or microphone is hit or miss, depending on what series train you're on. What's the kind of plan to address that with the operator announcements, and like also for on the 7,000s, when you get to like Stadium Armory, will it automatically be like, oh, this is the last transfer point for trains to Largo or trains to near Carrollton? Will that update automatically on the 7,000s? And then the other part of the question about non-7,000s.
Yep. So we are fully aware that our operating or our announcements through our trains or through the stations are not as great. We've talked about that. What is our plan? So the MIC is helping us through what is feasible, making sure that things are visible, whether it's the advisories on PIDs, additional signage within the platform, or there. Right now, we are relying a little bit on the operator announcements that are happening, and that should update with the MIC and helping them or helping our customers do a last train announcement. This is the last train to whatever the announcement, however the announcement or the script goes, to transfer over to New Carrollton or downtown Largo. And so they are developing the script, and that will be ready. And then the trip planner will also be updated as well. And so if there is a tourist or a new person coming, or people are traveling out east on the Silver Line, orange or blue, the trip planner will be updated as well, giving that update. Don't have a clear answer for you in terms of our barriers, but hopefully we can work through that in the coming years.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Alex.
Yeah, one thing I kind of wanted to build off of from that is like on today's like 7,000 series, it'll be like this is the last transfer station to the blue and orange line or blue and silver line if you're like going to New Carrollton, for example. Are we planning on changing that to just referencing destinations? Because with the silver line effectively going to places, I feel like saying this is the last stop to transfer to the silver line or like not mentioning it all would probably confuse a lot of people. So it might just be better to reference destination stops at that point.
I think for the silver line, I'll need to check on this and check the script. But I think through the silver line specifically, it will say downtown Largo will have a destination attached to it compared to the last transfer point on the orange and blue line. But I'll get back to you and see what the scripting is for that.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, to me, that's just like the point of highest confusion, but I think everything else will probably be okay.
Awesome. Cal.
Can't get my camera on. Okay. So folks, I've been hearing reports that folks really like the signs that are at the top of the escalators, for example, at Friendship Heights that say when the next trains are coming. That's really helpful. And there's a big one at 7th and H, although that seems to rotate between metros and stops and other things that have nothing to do with metro. That big giant sign on top of the station, like a multi-purpose screen, huge. But what is not there, and I'm not holding my breath for this anytime soon, is at the bottom of the escalators in the metro stations to see when the next buses are scheduled to leave. So if you can take that suggestion back, that would be great.
Yeah, I can definitely message that over to our wayfinding team. I know even I've been noticing at L'Enfant. L'Enfant is our kind of like our guinea pig station, and so I've been seeing the bus and shuttles on not at the bottom of the platform, but like right when you walk next to the fare machines. And so we can. I'm not sure how easily they can expand out to other stations, but it seems like they are working on adding bus routes and that information. So
it's a pretty massive job to do that.
Yeah.
Compared with just the trains. One more thing. I forgot what it was. I wish there was somebody else who could go first. Oh, there is. Why don't Lucas go, and then I'll see if I can remember my question.
Yeah, thanks, Cal. Yeah, so my question was around the super peak capacity for like the red and the silver.
Yeah.
So is the time frame that the super peak is going to occur going to be like broadly advertised and communicated? And if so, what time is that going to be?
I believe it's going to be during I'm not sure if it's going to be broadly advertised because we want to stay within like our schedule and time frame, but I believe it's going to be between like the 7:30 to 8:30 time frame. But I'll need to look in and check with our rail planning and scheduling team to see what they have planned in terms of messaging out like this is happening during this time. My communication with them is like it's relatively around that time, so I don't know in terms of it will be exactly 7:30 to 8:30 or 7:30 to 9:30, and so I can find out and to make sure like okay what is going to be broadly or if it's just around that time, but it will be in the morning and then evening.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think one of your other slides said it's going to last for like about 40 minutes. So
correct. Yeah, I think
probably some folks might really get it naturally, and some folks might want to change their routine a little to be included in that. But no, thank you for looking into that for me.
Cal, did that come back to you?
Yep, I remembered. Bus ETA. Is that you're gonna not make that go away? I hope.
In what sense? Sorry. Bus
Well,
CTA
I
and stuff.
use it on my computer and also on my phone too, because it affords a lot of features that MetroPulse doesn't. MetroPulse is great if you're on a particular bus route and you want to know when the next route is coming for that. But if you're standing at an intersection where multiple bus happens or at a metro station and you want to consider alternatives, you can just click on a neighboring bus stop icon on the map and it'll switch to that. And you can't do that on MetroPulse because you're not really looking at a map of the area. You're looking at just the one route in one direction only. And you can't see stuff coming the other direction. So there's just all kinds of helpful things about it. I'm supposed to work up a comparison between the two and send it to John, who's supposed to get it to the right people, because I mentioned this when I think when Allison was on last time, or maybe it was Renee, I don't remember. But
yeah, I'll have to look into it. I'm not sure what the process is in terms of our current systems and tools and how MetroPulse will impact these other tools. But I think for right now, the plan is to keep everything moving and usable for customers.
That implies that you'll keep bus ETA running.
I'll have to look into it since I don't
Okay.
run into, or I don't manage bus ETA, so I don't want to say, yes, we are going to continue keeping bus ETA or not, but I can look into it.
Okay, and how will I'm not a RAC member, so how do I find out about this?
I believe I can have, I have your contact information.
Yes, and I
John
stuck
and
it in
Renee.
the chat and also stuck it in the
And-
chat. Okay, John is the
One of us can
traffic
follow up.
director.
I will say I'm looking at bus ETA on my phone, or excuse me, MetroPulse on my phone now, and it gives you the option. Like I'm looking at I'm at the office, so I'm looking at the map that it found for me, and it's popping up all the bus stops in the area, and I can just click on any one of them to give me arrival information for any nearby stop. Like it's not, because we're at the nexus of several different routes. And so I can it's not, it's easy to toggle between them.
And what about if it's not so nearby? Like if I want to follow down one of the routes and pick a stop going the other direction, much farther down the route, can I do that, or even the same direction?
I believe. Well, let me.
With bus ETA, I can navigate through the whole system.
Well, right. I'm scrolling through I'm scrolling through. I'm moving the map right now. And I'm looking at a bus stop up near Howard University, and it's giving me arrival times there. I mean, it centers on where I am, but anyway.
Yeah.
All
just
right,
to clarify,
I'll take
You
more
should
of a
play
look
with
at
it. You should play with it,
Yeah.
Cal.
I'll take more of a look at it. Yeah.
because Cal, you're talking about the MetroPulse on the actual app, right? Because I know there's like MetroPulse beta in terms of on the website. You're talking specifically using the app, correct?
Whatever's on my computer.
Got it. Okay. So the MetroPulse app actually answers everything that you need. I think the miscommunication right here, because I've used MetroPulse, which is also like a web version, and it will, I think, to your point, it just says like the closest bus stop has X number or like the hours, but the actual app has like, I can't show. Let's see if on your
I
phone.
can't really see it, but
yeah.
is the app only on phones, or is that also a downloadable computer app?
It's just on your phones, your smartphone. Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
All right. Well, thank you, Jerry. I appreciate you coming in and doing multiple items for us. It's really helpful to get there's a lot of changes that happen in the summer, and to do the summer construction is also helpful as well, because I know we've got a busy July agenda as well. So we appreciate that, and all of the work that your team is doing. There's a lot happening.
Yes, a lot. So I just dropped my email in the chat. Feel free to email me, and I'll try to follow up as soon as I can on all the questions that were brought up today. So,
Thank you very much.
all right. Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
We will move on to our next item, an ATO update. I'm not sure who's presenting this one.
Ariana?
That would be me, Narayana Sundaram. I'll share my screen if it's okay with everyone.
Absolutely.
I know he's going to be modest about his experience, but at Apta, we worked together at Apta. We were actually office mates side by side. And he worked with a team that actually developed industry standards that are being used across the country, and has gone, I'm pretty sure, overseas to work with people over there. So very knowledgeable individual. So I'm sure he's going to give you all a plethora of information. It's all yours, Ariana. No pressure.
No, thank you, Jose. Thank you, really, thank you. I for that kind introduction. Really appreciate it. Actually, Jerry made a great presentation as well. I think he alluded to some of the benefits that ATO is providing, and we are anticipated to, take advantage of those benefits as well. So greatly appreciate you all inviting us to make this presentation. Really excited to provide this update on ATO. Can everybody see my screen? And yep, okay. Again, I'll walk us through the benefits of ATO that we're seeing already on the red line and partly on the green yellow performance updates based on what we are seeing on the red, but also some lessons learned that we have from our red line launch, how we have introduced some of the benefits to green and yellow lines, and our readiness and next steps for blue and silver launches as well. So I think everybody probably is aware we have made a similar presentation to the board as well, and publicly we have laid this out as well. But if not, happy to walk everyone through this in the sense that ATO really provides three main benefits. One major benefit is safety, helps us efficiently provide service to our customers, all inclusive of you all, and improves our reliability for our customers as well. I think Jerry mentioned that we're able to add, peak service, super peak service. Those are all on the backs of, some of the backs of ATO and the technology we're reintroducing to the rail operations. Primary benefit, and Metro is really achieving the primary benefit of ATO, which is to mitigate the significant hazard of red signal overruns. And when red signal overruns take place, we weren't able to mitigate that using manual operations, but through ATO, which is a semi-automated operation. We are able to mitigate red signal overruns on the main line of Metro or Metro Rail. And as a result, we've seen 0 red signal overruns on the red line since December 15th of 2024. We've had almost, 6 months of ATO operations on the red line. So that's a significant milestone. We just reintroduced ATO to the green yellow lines as well on May 23rd, 2025. So a few weeks ago, I would say. We have seen, in this time period since December 15th, we have seen 3 red signal overruns on main lines in manual mode or manual operations since the rollout on the red line. Moving on to the efficiency aspect. Sorry, I do see someone has their hand up. Do we want to wait till, I finish, or I can take questions? Not a problem, but how do we want to do this?
If you find taking them as we go, let's do them as we go. Or maybe just kind of finish your slide and then before you move to the next one, do that in case you cover it.
Yeah, cover this slide and then I can stop if that's okay. Yep. Awesome. So efficiency wise, ATO does reduce the number of resources we need to deliver the same amount of service. Jerry alluded to it that, we can We can run the same service with less number of trains because we are able to cycle the trains, through the lines easier or faster, if you will. In the end, on the red line, we would require 2 less train sets to provide the same service without decreasing service. And then ultimately that, is, financial sustainability. We save in operating expenses throughout metro operations. Reliability, which I'm hoping this group would be really interested in. We are reducing the end-to-end trip times. We have already reduced it from 70 to 66 minutes on the red line. And as I think Jerry had a slide on this as well, for after June 22nd, it's going to be further reduced on the red line to 62 minutes. So really time savings for our customers trying to get from work to school or, home to school, work, etc. Right? So it's huge benefits for our customers. I guess I can pause here and take any questions on this. William?
Yeah, hi, Narayan. So thank you for the presentation. My question was on the safety. What is the red signal overrun? So kind of the definition and what's the significance of it? Does someone get killed, or I don't know what it is?
So sure, no, great question, first of all. Red signal overruns are basically hazards in the sense that there are signals throughout the rail lines, right? And so it's akin to the traffic signals that we experience on roads. If you cross that when the signal is red, then you could anticipate traffic, or you run the risk of somebody coming in the cross lanes or cross streets and hitting you, right? It's similar to that, where you could when a signal is red, essentially the block ahead or the tracks ahead is not safe for the train that is experiencing the red signal to occupy. So in manual mode, though, there is the ability for operators to slowly move into that occupied block, or the block that has the red signal up ahead, to move into that block. So essentially, you could possibly collide with a train up ahead, or if it's a interlocking, where if it's, let's say, an intersection, right, where 2 lines are coming together, then like one of the junctions that we have, like Stadium Armory, for example, right, you could basically, again, cross paths with another train, right? So it's in manual mode, that is a possibility. In ATO, that is not a possibility. So hence, the importance of ATO, to introduce ATO as a safety measure. Hopefully I've answered your question, William.
Yes. So it's safer under ATO.
Absolutely safer under ATO. Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So just giving some performance stats on the red line. Since we returned to ATO, December 15th, customer on-time performance has increased, and this is in comparison to other lines as well. And I'm presenting some March numbers, but we are updating, we have updates for April numbers as well, but I just wasn't able to get that in time. Schedule adherence has improved for our trains. I've seen somewhere around 8 to 10% increase from where we were in December. So that's a great benefit to our customers. One of the things that you may have seen from the previous board presentation in April was, a great discussion on overruns, right? In terms of train stopping at the 8-car marker, which is where trains usually stop on the Metro Rail system. And we are, witnessing great reliability in terms of the station stopping accuracy as well. We have had, 99.98%, reliability of the train stopping accurately at the 8-car marker. So that has improved performance as well. One of the things we are tracking in terms of improvement after ATO rollout is the reduction in platform overruns. And when we initiated ATO in December of 24, from that till now, we've reduced any time, the occurrence of platform overruns by about 70% as well. So we're tracking that. That is an improvement that we're trying to make using ATO and ATO performance as well. So it's a marker of ATO performance as opposed to, rail performance overall. All right. So what lessons we have learned from the red line, right? So there are a few lessons learned that we have that have helped us reduce those overruns that I mentioned in the past or on that past slide. We have created a lot of reinstruction for operators that have been, trying to get familiarized with ATO operations. So that was part of our rollout was to train our operators thoroughly, help them understand the ATO experience, as well as help them be comfortable with ATO as well. As we rolled out ATO on the red line, there were some lessons learned in terms of reinstruction that we needed to provide in terms of console indications and the buttons that the operators were previously were more familiar with, and some that they were not familiar with. So we had to go through several reinstructions, stand downs, and coaching of the operators as well. Some of the other things that we did were to improve our rules as well as procedures as we reintroduced ATO. The other aspect that I will just allude to here is that we had several engineering changes, and one of the engineering changes here that has helped us to make reduce overruns that I mentioned on the past slide is to deactivate a button that was very prominent on our legacy rail cars, and that has helped us reduce the overruns as well. All right, so that was the red line, and I just wanted to pivot to the green-yellow lines. I know it's very recent, but what we are tracking our efforts on the green line, again, is to focus on our overruns on the green line and the yellow line. So those were introduced on May 23rd, of course, as I mentioned earlier. Here again, we're trying to track our 8-car marker stops, making sure that the trains stop reliably. And also on the right-hand side, I'm giving you a comparison of, how many manual overruns have taken place and how many green-yellow ATO overruns are taking place as well. Overall, I would say that, our performance is very similar to the red line, slightly, as compared to when we introduced it. So again, this is still going through the infant stages, if you will, of introduction to the green-yellow, and operators are getting comfortable. We're quite confident that, performance will improve in terms of overruns, which we are tracking as a system reliability issue and not a safety issue. And so that is our focus right now, to have train stop exactly at the 8-car marker. Cole, I see you have a question.
Are you noticing with in the initial data from the green and yellow lines, are any of those overruns focused on a particular station? Because I know, like on the red line, there was the bigger problem. I think it's at Judiciary Square where you were seeing the most overruns. Are you seeing any of that happening on the green and yellow lines, or is it pretty spread out?
So I would say out of the 28 overruns, 10 have taken place on Gallery Place, track 2, and we are and even those, there is a trend that is emerging right now. We're still investigating it, but those are some yellow line trains that are initiating at Mount Vernon and then traveling to Gallery Place. So we're investigating that. There is a potential solution to have trains basically travel in manual mode from Mount Vernon to Gallery Place and then initiate ATO there. But we're investigating as to why it's taking place. So for now, it's under investigation, I would say. Okay. But that is type of it's a great question in the sense that we have a thorough, robust process internally to identify, any trends, commonalities, and so it's able to help us get to solutions faster.
Great, thank you.
Yep, of course. Cal?
Yeah, a couple things. One is I really appreciate the difference between the new ATO and the old one. The length of time from the time the doors close to the time the train takes off, especially when the stops are in the center platform, is noticeable, very noticeable, like 2 seconds. It's great.
Yep.
But I wanted to ask, what's the cause of these overruns? What is this, just locally things that happen at that particular station, or is this a more systemic thing?
So overruns could be caused because of several reasons, right? And again, I want to emphasize that there's no safety implication in the sense that the train can only overrun if the tracks are clear up ahead. The protection for in terms of train separation or occupied blocks is being provided by a separate system called automatic train protection. That's our vital protection system, right? And so ATO overruns are caused when trains basically have, there's a handshake between the wayside and the trains. Or when I say wayside, the infrastructure components and the trains. And if that handshake is off, then the train has the possibility of overruns. Again, these are, there have been 28 overruns over about 100,000 stops. So it takes place very infrequently. But, that is still important because we want to make sure that our customers have the best service in the sense that if they want to stop there, we don't want them to be precluded from stopping there. So again, it's an inconvenience for our customers, and that's why we want to improve that and reduce it. But essentially, it's because of a handshake gone wrong between the infrastructure and the train, if that makes sense.
So you have to correct those on an individual case by case basis.
Mm-hmm.
I see.
Yeah.
Got it.
In some cases, it's if it's a consistent location related issue, like I was mentioning, related to, let's say, I think Cole mentioned Judiciary Square, right? So if it's location specific, then we focus our attention and energy towards that location. If it's on a car by car basis, where example, if a car fails to initialize something or does not get the right information, then that car may need to have, to be fixed. But it's not, frequent, or if it's a repeat car, then we know those as well. And so we take actions accordingly.
I just remember in the original old ATO, they kept running over Tacoma. That was the big spot that was a big problem back then. So what happens when there's an overrun? Did they just skip the stop?
Correct. Yep.
So nobody can get on or off the train anywhere.
Well, it's not anywhere, but just that stop that got skipped, or for that location. So the train basically travels to the next platform, and then that's where customers get to change or deboard.
So they won't be able to get on or off at that stop on that train.
Correct. Yep.
Thanks.
Of course. All right, so moving on, and this is going into our readiness to return ATO to our blue, orange, silver lines. We have conducted all the testing and completed all the requirements for certification from our safety oversight team, which is WMSC. And we also have completed our operator training for blue, orange, silver lines. Of course, we have completed that previously for the red, green, and yellow lines. And then ultimately, we had to submit a safety certification document called temporary use notification and all the required, information to our oversight entity, which is WMSC. And we have done that on April 25th. From a Metro's perspective, we are ready to go, and we just need 3 days notice from the WMSC to proceed and go live with ATO on Blue Orange Silver. And we start to give the same benefits that I mentioned earlier to our customers, for Blue Orange Silver as well, that I'm sure everybody's, anticipating as well. And just on the right-hand side, there's a chart of, how many active operators we have, how many we have qualified. We're, of course, tracking the last few operators that need to be qualified. Just to be clear, there's no requirement for us to, have everyone qualified before we go live. It's just that, if you're qualified, you can operate in ATO, and if you're not, then you can operate in manual mode, which takes place even today, because our trains can run in mixed mode and can be operated in mixed mode as well. So next steps, I guess, is, just going through some of the historical information here. We've gone through red line activation, we've gone through the green and yellow line activation, and ultimately, we're ready to go for Blue Orange Silver activation as well. We're in, constant communication with our oversight entity. As soon as we get that, we can reintroduce Blue Orange Silver ATO as well. And that was my update. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take those.
Yeah, I think we'll go to, I see Brian. Looks like your hand came up first.
Hi, thank you so much for that presentation. Very comprehensive, and I know ATO is a game changer. I think a lot of us were either listening or present or later followed up on that board presentation back in April, World Class Transit, which was, to the best of my knowledge, one of the biggest public declarations that investing in ATO was going to be a better strategy for delivering efficient, high quality service over system expansion, at least in the next couple of years. And it's a perfect time, certainly, with the 8K on the horizon, and I think the investments that we've been making as a system. So, and for the record, this is not something I kind of dock the rack for, because we usually don't comment too much on capital issues because of the time horizon and the technical nature of them. And so this is just purely observational, and I may not be as well versed on the technical aspect of how ATO works, even though I'm a firm believer that it does and it will continue, much to your point of delivering fantastic service. I know I have a big concern, and I've been thinking about it for the past couple of months, is effectively most of the stations really east of like Eastern Market area, in Stadium Armory. I've noticed a lot of delays as a result of signaling issues that go up both ways, whether it's the silver blue or the orange split. And I guess my question is, and of course, I usually don't even go that far east, but it does have trickle effects onto the rest of the system when you have those issues. I guess my question is, will ATO, maybe not ATO grade 2, but eventually as we proceed forward, will it solve for those maybe outdated or malfunctioning signals in that area of the trackage? Or is that an issue that you all have had to overcome in preparation for the transition to kind of ATO grade 2? Because I'm just hesitant about being enthusiastic about the rollout of ATO on these lines if there's still signaling issues at Stadium Armory or at Eastern Market or at any of those stations over there. I'm just wondering if you could clarify and, put me at a little bit of ease if you can.
No, sure thing, Brian. First of all, Great question. I want to piece it out a little bit because also clarify a few things, right? So the ATO presentation that I gave today is essentially a reintroduction of a functionality that existed within our current system. And this has been, we deactivated or, this functionality somewhere around 2009, in 2009. But the part about world-class transit, right, is to actually solve some of the issues that you were talking about. ATO will relies on the underlying signaling system. And, our signaling system is still from the 1970s in the sense that it was designed in 60s, 70s, and, introduced in 1976 for the Red Line. And of course, all the other extensions have used the same design and same system essentially. The urgency to, automate through world-class transit, that program is to actually modernize the current signaling system. And the reason is because of, its issues, the obsolescence issues, as well as the reliability issues. We all know, it's think of it as, an old, trunk line phone to a mobile phone. That's the conversion we need on our system to go from, where we are today from a signaling system perspective to the new modern, signaling system, which is communications-based train control, right? CBTC, you may have heard that. Just on the reliability aspects of the current signaling system, right? It is a combination, and I don't know. I know we've had some issues on the DNG or the where the two-line Stadium Armory junction, if you will. And, we're tracking that. Our signal maintenance team, signal engineering team, as well as our track and structures team collaborate together to solve a lot of the issues that are, at that location. And that location has, is over a bridge or an aerial structure, what we call an aerial structure. And it experiences, heavy use, if you will. And so we try to continue to keep up and keep the reliability up. So it's a matter of using or, making sure that our maintenance as well as our practices are continually, putting time into it and making sure it's staying reliable. I don't know all the details on that particular issue, but I can come back to you, Brian, and provide you with more details in terms of, what we are doing. But our teams are constantly at work to keep that system up and running.
And thank you for that clarification and for potentially looking into it. And maybe it is just like the times that I am most inconvenienced and frustrated on the system, I happen to look at my phone and the issue just happens to be signaling on this one particular part of the system. So I don't know if, actually looking deep down into the data, there's a big discrepancy on, the Stadium Armory versus any other juncture. But that was one thing that I zeroed in on and it's arguably one of the, it's not the sexiest component of capital projects, right? And the investments that we need to make. But they're some of the most essential, our signaling capacity. And so I just want to put that kind of back onto our front burner. In coal, I think one of the things that we as a RAC should be thinking about in subsequent meetings, especially as it pertains to maybe capital projects that are happening. But thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to seeing ATO kind of roll out to its full capacity, both within the current capacity of the system, but also future upgrades, because I think it's gonna be a huge game changer.
Absolutely, no, appreciate it, Brian. Thank you.
Sweet. We'll go to Alex.
Yeah, thanks again for the great presentation. I do have a few questions, and the first thing I wanted to ask on is the return to maximum design speeds. With the green and yellow lines going to ATO, are maximum design speeds in effect for the entirety of both lines right now?
Yeah, yes, the answer is yes. The only caveat that I'll add there is that the green line has not changed in maximum design speed. The maximum design speed for green line was 65, and we used to operate even in manual mode at 65 as well. There are parts of the yellow line that got upgraded because of the return to design speed, project, and that's also part of this in the sense that ATO now operates at the maximum design speeds as well. And so there are small segments of the yellow line that got the upgrade.
Perfect. And are blue line trains on that shared segment also using the design speed or not until ATO is in effect?
So the blue line speeds do not use design speeds as of now, but we're, as I mentioned, as soon as we get the go ahead for the blue on silver, from the WMSC, we'll be turning both of them on as well.
Okay, sounds good. And just as a third question for that, even with regulatory approval from the WSMC, when trains are in manual mode, like on the red line today, do they use the existing speed cap or do they use maximum?
No, so in manual mode, they will still use the return to design speed, max. So it would basically be, the max allowed, so which would be 75 on the red line.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Yep.
I also wanted to touch on those optimized schedules. You mentioned that the red line's trip time is decreasing again in late June. Are there any plans to do that for the green and yellow lines, or has that already been implemented?
So no, I think the next schedule change accounts for some savings on the green and yellow. But as I mentioned, the green, does not change at all because the green has always operated at 65. So, there's not a lot of time savings because of design speed, but there are some time savings because of ATO, because the schedule gets consistent, that part. So we are accounting for some savings, but I just don't remember exactly what that number is.
But it's probably pretty small, right? Like for at least compared to the red line. Okay.
Yeah.
And what's the just as if you have a best guess of how if we are going to hit that June 20 or June 15th mark for the Blue Orange and Silver, or are we just waiting on the WMSC at this point, right?
Yes.
All right. That sounds good. Thanks again. I really appreciate the answers.
Of course. Yep.
Thank you. Jose, you got your hand up?
I do. Just real quick, I did ride the red line the other day and speed was phenomenal. I hadn't been on a train that fast in a long time, and there was a poor customer with me. What was in front of me just had her eyes bewildered that the trains were going so fast. But I was with additional staff heading off to a press event with Randy, and we assured her that everything was okay. And I may have missed this during the presentation or maybe earlier Q&A, but I just wanted to debunk the myth because we've been receiving, or board office has been receiving recorded messages for public comments that some people believe that ATO means the trains are running without train operators, and that is not true. So I just want to, make that public for those who may have thought that they're running without operators. That is not true. There will be an operator still on the train.
Yeah, there's always an operator on the train in the cab, making sure that, they're looking up ahead. Doors do close. Doors have to be closed manually. We don't have automatic door closing on our trains, so doors have to be closed not automatically, but doors have to be closed by the operator. So there is an operator always in our cabs.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Thanks, Jose. I think my question is about the rollout. As you deploy this, I think I live on the green line, so I take the green line every day, multiple times a day. And as it's deployed, I think I kind of notice there's sometimes where I'm on a train where we're stopping short of the 8-car marker every time and having to move forward. Is that just the operators getting used to the system or trying to adjust to it? Is it a technical issue? What's the data show us on that?
Yeah, so we have been tracking a few short stops. Cole, at least on the initial rollout, there were a few more than what we anticipated. And it could take place for multiple reasons. One is technical in the sense that, the stopping position that is, for a given location may be that, short stop, if you will. And especially you would have noticed it for some of the 6-car trains, because I think the green yellow, we operate a lot of our 6-car trains. So that's where, they stop short of the platform. And then sometimes, if it needs to be moved up, which I think is how we conduct operations, we make sure that we berth at the 8-car marker, so that customers get a consistent ride experience, because otherwise they will have to move back and so on and so forth. So that's the current modus operandi, but we have reduced the number of those occurrences. We are tracking that as well. In the first few days, we had somewhere around 30 to 35 what we call as short stops. And I think it has now come down to about 5 to 6 in a day. So we are tracking those, and we're trying to make sure that that the trains stop at the right location. In some cases, it's a vehicle, or a train issue, or in some cases it could be a wayside. So we've had 3 locations where we have done some wayside fixes to make sure that all trains can stop at the right location. And so that's what we are, diligently focused on. But I do want to make sure that it's conveyed, that I at least get it out that the trains are still within the platform limits, and even if they stop and open the doors, it's still safe. It's opening it on the right side of the platform or the correct side of the platform, and there is no safety issue with it.
And a quick follow-up. I think I'm a DC transponder, so I've only been here under manual operation. Is there a 6-car marker wayside also, like a 6-car stop where you would stop equal distance from the front and back of the platform? And we just stopped using that sometime in the past?
Yeah, I think my understanding, going back into the history of this, right? I think it was somewhere around 2010 when Metro stopped using the 6-car marker stops. And that was primarily because, of manual operations, in the sense that, operators would need to make sure that they know exactly if it's a 6-car train or an 8-car train. And if it gets, if an operator forgets, then they would start to make, really long stops or overrun the station. So that was the issue. And so hence we, for manual purposes or manual mode operations, it was to be consistent with manual mode operations, it was basically changed to, 8-car marker stops.
Okay.
Hope that answers your question, Cole.
Yeah, it does. I was just curious. This is the first time I've heard a lot of the use of the 8-car marker. So it's like that must imply the existence of a 6-car marker.
Yes, we did have 6-car markers in the past, and you're right.
Awesome. Well, thank you, William.
Yeah, hi. My question is about the human operator, and so is that the best practice for other rail, ATO systems around the world? Is there a human there, or is this some have humans in the train and some don't? Could you elaborate on it a little bit? Give us your insights.
Yeah, definitely. So there are driverless metro systems that operate. I can recite a few. Paris has a few lines, line 14, line 1. They are in the process of rolling it out to a couple other lines as well. Copenhagen is another one that is in the process of rolling out driverless metros. Singapore Metro, Hong Kong Metro has a few lines in driverless operations as well. But in the US, we don't have driverless metros, but you will see driverless trains at airports. The one at Dulles essentially uses a driverless train that goes back and forth between terminals, and that's a driverless operation. It uses the same technology that gets utilized by metros as well around the world, and it's definitely growing, I would say. I think it started somewhere around 1990, and there are at least now 14 driverless metro systems, if you will, around the world that have been converted. Previously, they used to have, a driver on their trains, and now they are converted. There are a few more, greenfield or what I call greenfield or new built metro systems that operate in driverless as well.
And is there any data on, whether it's they're just as safe as with driver versus without driver, or is one safer or the other?
They're safer, I would say, overall,
with the driver
in terms of without the driver, and there are a few reasons why. And when I say, I think I should in terms of, it's not about with a driver or without a driver. It's about the mode of or the grade of automation level that gets utilized. The importance of safety there is about how the trains are separated from the platforms and the right of way. For grade of automation level 4, there is a requirement to have platform screen doors, and hence, that allows for additional safety, right? As you can imagine, that reduces the level of suicides or fatalities that get experienced by our metro system. I think on average, we experience about 5 to 8 fatalities because of either people jumping off of track or getting pushed onto the track, depending on the situation, or they could be, train surfing or other types of events, right? So there is an increase in safety because of the level of automation increase, which is where metro systems have gone towards. It's not, I just want to be clear, it's not about with a driver or without. It's more about the level of safety that gets increased because of platform screen doors and the level of automation. Hopefully, William, that helps and clarifies this.
Yeah, that is helpful. When I, presented the ATO to some older adults, they said, well, yeah, but they had that train crash and people got killed. So hopefully they're taking that into account. So that's what I was, trying to work to explain to people that, yeah, okay, it's more efficient. You can run more trains, but how do I explain the just as safe or safer? That's what I was struggling with.
Yeah, so the safety improvements are definitely there for customers, as you can imagine, as I mentioned. Of course, the signaling system is safe in the sense that is the system that makes sure that trains are separated and they don't, crash against each other. It works on a principle of, vital train separation. Very similar to what we have today as well. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And as was mentioned, there would be very long delays before safety would be compromised. Back to the point I mentioned earlier, which is good. It's a good thing.
Totally agree. Yep.
And I think, Lucas, you'll be our last question. So we do want to leave 15 minutes for the remaining items on our agenda.
Yeah. So, my question. So I'm a red line rider, and my question's kind of about efficiency and a little bit reliability. So a lot of times recently, I've kind of been encountering a situation where I'm on the red line and we pull into a station and we have to sit there for an extended period of time. And the operator says there's a train on the platform ahead. So we have to pause here at this station. So I was wondering, is that like a symptom of ATO or maybe a symptom of like manual intervention taking place? Or is that something that's a completely separate issue when those kind of instances occur?
So Lucas, great question actually. And it is actually a symptom of ATO actually providing faster service because, we didn't change our schedule drastically. And we are going to change that on June 22nd, but we took a conservative approach to changing schedule previously, right? So trains are reaching the platform stations, faster, but, the leaving of to maintain schedule, they still have to, wait there a little bit so that they can stay on schedule. Otherwise, they would be ahead of schedule again to, or people may not get that train, which they are trying to get to, right? So it's making sure that the train sticks to the schedule that we have today. June 22nd, I think the wait time will reduce because trains can move through the system faster.
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Cal, I see your hand come up. You can do it really quick.
Yep,
We're
very,
gonna move on.
very. It's a follow-up to what Lucas was just saying. I've heard announcements that are both, that are either, this train is holding for a schedule adjustment. And I think I hear those on the 7,000 trains. And I also hear this train is holding because there's a train on the platform ahead. Is there any differentiation between those conditions in terms of the announcements?
So I'm not thoroughly familiar in terms of the differences in the announcements they make, but I do know that trains have been, holding at a given location because they're ahead of schedule, but I can get more information on that.
Is there any way they could tell us how many minutes they're going to be holding? Because we don't know if that's 10 minutes or 1 minute.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it's never 10 minutes, but unless there's an absolute necessary reason, but I can definitely take that feedback to our teams and provide that info.
Especially if we have to get to a transfer station like Gallery Place or something, and we don't know exactly, and it's down to the minute,
Yeah. No, fair enough. And again, coming June 22nd, that situation will change. So I think we will be seeing much better, schedule adherence and less waiting on the platforms for customers.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining us tonight and giving us this in-depth presentation. I would also say to RAC members, to kind of what Brian was saying, if you want a more in-depth on world-class transit and what the team is working on, go back and watch the April board meeting, the Safety and Operations Committee meeting portion. The board got into it really deep with staff, and it's a really informative conversation of where the general manager wants to go. And on that, thinking about that too, is next month we're anticipating having Randy with us in person for our in-person July meeting. And that would be something I would really encourage you all to go out and watch, even at 2x speed. That's what I was listening to it live, but 2x speed is great for board meetings because people talk kind of slow. And so go watch that and listen to that, so you can come to that conversation really looking forward and ahead with Randy, because I think that's a great thing for us to be doing as a RAC, we'll get into. I'll talk a bit more about the July meeting when we get to announcements, but thank you again for coming in and providing this update for us. We really appreciate it.
No, thank you, and appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.
All right, so
Hey,
next
Cole?
we'll go to
Yeah, hi, this is Pat Sheehan, and I was just to add on to what you said, if anyone wants a lot more information, they can go to DMV Moves meetings that were recorded of March 31st and May 16th, because they go through this world-class transportation system, ATO, and all this other stuff too, in great detail. So you're right, those three meetings will give you everything you want to know about all this stuff. Make an expert. Yep.
Thanks,
They're both
Pat.
very, very well done. Yeah.
So next we have our outreach member report out. So as a reminder, this is for our RAC members to share kind of your thoughts and experiences on the system you've seen, things you've heard, things you want us to cover in the months ahead. So I'll open the floor to RAC members. Lucas.
Yeah, I don't know if this is something anybody else has experienced, but like specifically on like the busiest weekdays, like the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, like the mornings and like the going home commute, like the 6-car trains have kind of been a little killer. Like, I mean, there's a lot of times when not everybody can fit. So then they're waiting for the next round or the next train to come through. And I know this will probably get improved with Super Peak specifically, like for me on the red line, but I don't know like what goes into deciding what will be a 6 versus an 8 specifically during those hours. But I know a lot of folks have been finding it rough, and even myself, like there has been a lot of times when people can't get on board. So I don't know if that's something that other folks have experienced or not, but it's been, you know, challenging at times.
I've noticed really full trains on the Green Line, but not to the point where people can't fit yet. It gets to the beginning point during the heavy rush hour, that super peak time. It's tight, but I haven't seen it where people haven't been able to get on yet. But I do know that's part of what the schedule adjustments are for, and trying to provide more capacity in the system. And I think really now it seems that we're at a limitation on rail car availability, which is what's impacting what's a 6 and an 8-car train, just trying to make those like decisions. From what I've been listening into the board meetings, it seems that it's just about, we don't have the rail cars to run, to run 8-car trains on all of them. So that's a great question too, to think about asking Randy next month. So keep that in your pocket too. John, I think you have something to add too.
I will say I believe, and I can follow up with Kareen, who is our rail scheduling director, that as part of this sort of schedule change that's happening on the 22nd, they have been looking at trying to identify stations and particular locations that are the most crowded, and prioritize those for getting 8-car trains. Obviously it's not an exact science, because people's routines vary by a few minutes day to day, but overall it kind of evens out. So I'll confirm with her, but I believe that there are going to be, in addition to some timing changes, some consist adjustments to try and address crowding with a little bit more strategic use of 6 and 8-car trains.
Okay. No, that sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up. Thomas, I see you raise your hand. I'll give you just a second. Irene, I know you also mentioned some earlier in the meeting, you might have had something to share. So if you want to do that, go ahead and raise your hand, and then maybe we'll get to you after Thomas.
Oh yeah. So a couple of things. So first, I just want to bring up some things about like the Metro Pulse app. I think it was Cal earlier who's saying he'd experienced some issues with it. And I also had some difficulties. And I think overall it's a good app, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of improvements to it. But I find it like so for instance, I was taking a bus the other day. I think it was the E4, and that leaves from Friendship Heights. And Friendship Heights has like a bunch of like different bus bays, and it wouldn't, like the bus wouldn't show up, or like the bus bay where the E4 would leave from wouldn't show up on the Metro Pulse map, or at least I couldn't find it. It was kind of difficult, so I had to use Bus ETA. And I was curious if I was wondering if there was any other instances of that, because I assume that could be pretty confusing for some people when trying to use the app. Also, I feel like the app is just a little bit like buggy at times. It's a little bit difficult to move the map around. Sometimes all the stops don't show up. So I'm sure there'll be a lot more like updates in the future to like fix these issues. But I get the idea that it's supposed to be like the main Metro map app that everyone's supposed to use in the future. So
yeah, I just want to make sure that all the issues are getting resolved. And then, actually, I think that was it. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, Thomas. I think if you encounter issues or those problems, submit them to the feedback function or to customer service so they can make the updates. I know that I think we all got invited to participate in the beta test. I know I did in the beta testing of the app, and it's gotten dramatically better over each iteration. So I know they're going to continue to do that. So the more feedback they get, the better. And I think they know it's not perfect and there's a ways to go to make it a lot better. But we need to see people using it and how people interact with it. So submit that feedback. I think that's the best thing that we can do to ensure that it gets better. But thank you for bringing that up. Matthew.
It's actually more of a question. I don't know who could speak to this, but is there any truth to the I guess rumor that I've heard they're going to add a second entrance to the North Bethesda station? Is that something that's in future plans, or?
Was that an announcement?
Yes.
Yes.
So that is part of a joint development project that was announced the other week. I will find it calls for the creation of a life sciences center at the, I guess it is the North Bethesda station, and that part of that development would include the funding of a second entrance at North Bethesda. I will find I'll find the press release.
Do you
I've
know?
got it right here.
Do you have like location information on that entrance, or would it be like north of the current entrance, further?
Well, so the current entrance is from the south end of the platform.
Yeah.
This would be from the north end of the platform.
That's what I figured. Okay.
Right. I believe the press release had a map.
Yeah, it does. I'm going to drop it in the chat right now.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I was writing something down. So
I'm looking at, I just pulled it up. So I do remember seeing that on, I think, social media. I think Randy was tweeting about it. And
yeah, there was a event last week.
So for once we can say the rumors are true instead of the rumors are false. There are drivers on the trains and there is a new station entrance coming to North Bethesda.
Very exciting.
All right. Irene.
I don't know if this is the right time to unmute because then I just thought of this. ATOs are not UFOs, but then you don't want to drive into any of the conspiracy theorists, but maybe there's some branding of a t-shirt that can happen for that because I do think people believe that they were, I don't know, autonomous car, train cars. But anyway, I digress. Two awesome things to talk about. Has anyone attended any of the Transit Enthusiasts of DC meetups? So if you go on the Meetup app, I stumbled across this group. They met at the Cleveland Park Library yesterday. There were at least 30 people. It might have been more than that. They had about a presentation on the history of fare cards, and I pulled out a paper fare card to much of everyone's amazement. And I said, I'm your people. Okay, so a few things they're working on, and Cal, you're still on, and to confirm your main event at his.com, they're working on an anniversary gathering, celebrating Metro. When I get some more information, I can connect you with that lead. But also for everyone on the rack, I was asked to provide regular updates. Like this, my first meeting last night, but everyone that's part of the rack, I would encourage you to look out for future events and to share periodic updates because this group, I have a list of comments and questions. I'm not getting into all of them there today, but some of them, someone did not know about Ride Tap Go. And I mean, this would be a target audience for that. So follow up. I sent some of the materials. Thank you, John and team, that we have related to Better Bus. And I sent that as a resource, but there's going to be more. And I know that, we can continue to partner with a group like that, but there's others out there. So that was awesome last night. On a related note, So in preparation for next month's in-person meeting, do we normally have someone representing from Metro Police? The reason I ask is that recently I was at the MGM National Harbor and there was some prom going on. Buses, it was a major issue. The buses could not stop and pick up people at I'm gonna say at the casino, like it's, it's a large event space in addition to casino and, concert hall. The buses had to bypass. And so I heard once I got in there that security contacted transit police because this was a major issue that you had people that were getting left and there was no way of contacting. It was traffic chaos. By the time I guess our bus, it was I was on the NH2, that goes to King Street. By the time we pulled up, I mean, the bus driver was calling someone, I guess, central control, like, hey, I can't pick up or drop off. Is there any way to have like a major list of events? I don't want to say mass events, but I don't know if there's a system for that. I don't know if that's worthwhile because, a prom is a one-off thing. Given that we have World Pride, that's a different set of, you know, research and preparation versus a prom. But that was highly inconvenient. And so I'm wondering if there's something that, that impacts riders and that can happen in different aspects of things. So just for consideration, I don't know, some way to, if there's like an event list that it's shared, especially at main transfer points or points where you have like a lot of people. So thank you for those two comments. And I'm still thinking of other ways of outreach. I look forward to getting a list of upcoming outreach between now and, June 29th, just to kind of share that with others. Thank you all.
Yeah. And please share, like, if new updates get posted for those meetups, share them, reply all to the email invites from John so we can all see that and make sure everyone has that information so we can engage where appropriate. And I think the plan is for next month to have Randy and the police chief or deputy chief in with us in person. I think John's probably still working on scheduling, but that is our, fingers crossed, our goal.
Right, Randy is confirmed. I need to reach out to MTPD to see if we can get either the chief or a deputy. Maybe.
Sorry, John.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say.
I
that
just
if
want
you're
to feedback on what Irene just mentioned. I sat in a police briefing last week with the board chair that was given to her, and they do have a major event calendar that they're aware of. So that might have just been a one-off, but they're very aware of all the large events that are going on in the city, and they're preparing heavily for the major events. So that could have been a one-off type of thing. So the bus operator contacting Central was probably the ideal thing to do. But if it's that big of a crowd, I mean, you have to also, you can't expect them to break up a mass amount of people in a quick period of time. So these are things that just happen, unfortunately.
And I think those of us that got to go to the MIC, the Integrated Command and Control Center, I don't know what the actual spells out is. You can see exactly what that bus driver would have been going through, saying they can remote in to see the cameras live, what that bus driver's seeing. They're talking to the driver, and they've got police and like scheduling and everything in the room right there at the same point. So I think that's, to Jose's point, that's probably what was supposed to happen. And I know police were involved in that discussion. So it'd be a good thing for us to chat about next month too. So thank you for bringing that up, Irene, and sharing the transit enthusiast stuff. Appreciate that. Matthew.
Well, would love to join. Thank you.
If you're still on
I keep forgetting to put my hand down after I raise it. Sorry.
Oh, okay, sweet. Anyone have anything else for readout? Otherwise, go ahead.
Sorry.
Someone, Alex. Yeah.
Yeah, I just say real quick, and I guess when the Better Bus rollout happens, I'll hopefully spend like a few hours at some stations kind of around Northern Virginia and maybe in DC. And hopefully I can come to the next meeting with some insight as to how it's going. But I have a feeling the first few weeks might be a little rough. But
yeah,
it's all for good in the end. So yeah,
for sure. So on that note, we'll talk about next month. Reminder, we are in person. There's still a hybrid option, but if at all possible, please try to make it in person. I think we've all found that these are really helpful to like get to interact in person, especially with having Randy in person this time. It's really important that we show up, have that FaceTime, and really hear from him about. I think we should focus on some of the bigger picture items too. When you have the GM, and to just also, thank him for having the staff come in month after month to give us these updates and interact with us. And the police chief or one of his deputies will be, I think, really important to what riders are experiencing on the system now in the short term and the long term, and how can we as a RAC be better about interacting with Metro staff and the board and providing that guidance, but also giving them direct feedback from riders. So that'll be a really important meeting to try to be at if you can. But is there any other announcements, new business? Once, twice?
That's going to be on the 2nd, is that right?
Yes, that will be the 2nd. All right. Well, hearing none, I will, I guess, consider a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
I hear a move and probably a second. And if
Second.
there are no objections, we will adjourn this meeting at 8:05 p.m. Sorry if we went going a few minutes over, but everyone, thanks for sticking with us. Great conversations tonight. Appreciate all of y'all for being here.
Have a great June, everyone.
Thanks for a great meeting. Look for follow-ups from me. I have a list. So
Sorry, I'm not sure who's speaking.
Oh, will we make the slideshows available through email?
yes, I will put them, I'll post them on the website and send out a link.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks.
Bye all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Night.